Welcome to Boxing on the Record with Randy and Chi-Town. Uh, I know it's been a minute since we've been on here, but I thank y'all for having patience enough to wait on us to see what we're gonna say next. And I appreciate y'all for showing y'all support, tapping in, liking, subscribing, sharing. Uh, but we got Chi-Town with us today, and you know we're gonna have something good with Chi-Town with us. So, Chi-Town, what's going on with you? What's on your mind, man? What you want to get off your mind and put it on the record?
Yeah, Randy, just keeping it peaceful, man. Just enjoying the huge milestone that we saw this past weekend. Not just with uh, uh, the whole views that this fight Canelo and Bud had, total views. I think that may get missed. That's people that watched it on Netflix, and then people throughout the world, and then people there. It's one of those huge events like this. I really enjoy that, as well as the accomplishment that Bud had. But one thing about Bud is that he really doesn't get credit for the people that he beats, and in these different weight classes. And I would think, if I can remember correctly, and you may have to correct me on this if I'm off, maybe the first legitimate, like really legitimate opponent that everyone couldn't really sidestep, couldn't say anything about, they couldn't do anything. When that Bud just demolished was EJ. And because Bud doesn't really get any credit for a lot of the cats that he fights, that he has beaten, let me say it that way, they considered Bud only fighting a bunch of nobodies until he fought EJ. And the way he just totally dismantled EJ, because they still had in their mind, their framework, their mental framework, that Bud fights a bunch of nobodies. So how is it possible that he's totally demolishing EJ like he's demolishing him just now? And because they couldn't find any way around it, the key thing that a lot of people were doing was saying, okay, EJ wasn't himself. EJ wasn't right. He must have been sick. He must have been on this. People even started going, before that fight, there were people that were saying, no, the accident ain't no excuse. The accident happened 2 years before, and there was all this type of stuff. He's fine because you saw what he did against Ugas and all these other people. He's fine. There ain't going to be nothing. But then after that fight, those exact same people were saying, well, maybe that accident, he has official accident. They find official for everything. You know what I'm saying? And for me, I've made it clear that I've been a Bud fan since I've been following him since he came in. So he's talking about, I've been following him since like 2011, whichever it was. The only time I ever went against Bud was in that EJ fight. And it was only because of some of the talk that many people are saying him not fighting against anybody. He fights a bunch of nobodies. That's it. I don't necessarily have that exact opinion, but I just always felt that in these different when he moved up, other than him fighting against Gamboa and those kids, when he moved up and came undisputed in 140, and then came up to a welterweight, I felt he was fighting the lesser competition in that division to come up, as opposed to kind of building these tides across streets that people would say, and fighting, and making whatever concessions that you have to make to be able to fight these tougher opponents, or these individuals that have maybe a stronger resume in whatever the division is that you're in, and make those concessions so you can fight that person and show that I really am. So Randy, Bud to me has always had the skills, always had that, everything that we see in him. What we saw in that Canelo fight is who he's always been in all of his fights. Period. No ifs and buts. The question comes in, and this is why I think a lot of people are beginning to understand who he is now in that Canelo fight. The question comes in only because of some of the people that he had fought in the past that he did not fight, like as he was going through. That really caused a lot of people to think that maybe Bud isn't as good as we think he is. Maybe it's a bunch of hype. But I've always focused on what I saw technically wise. And I knew that he had the technical abilities. He had all of those things to really be this guy that everyone's seeing now. So anyways, after that EJ fight, after he went ahead and became undisputed, and then that EJ fight, the next challenge was doing the same thing at 54. And this is where a lot of confusion, or I don't say confusion, but this is when people started to really start kind of going back on that old train again with Bud. He ain't really fighting nobody. He ain't gonna make it too far. He's not gonna do all that. Even though he beat EJ, it gave him more strength to say that EJ may not have been somebody. And so I'm sorry, EJ may not have been himself. Let me say it that way. He was somebody, but he may not have been himself. Because of the fight he had against Madrimov. And it's fighters, people fight differently, and there are certain opponents that do pose challenges to guys. And we come from the era where we don't care if you get hit. We don't even care if you have a loss on your record. We want to see you just fight the best, fighting the best, and how you can work through and overcome like a huge challenge, going through something that's going to really challenge you. We can see if you rise to the occasion or you even go above. And so he appeared to rise to occasion in the EJ fight, but then in the Madrimov fight, individuals felt that he, didn't rise to whatever occasion they wanted it to be. Even though he won, they just felt like he wasn't all of that. He fought a weaker person at 54. And other people's mind who don't know who, I keep saying, it was Madrimov, right? Oh, Randy, after all this time. Oh. Wow. Can you correct me real quick?
What's that?
No. Bud fought Madrimov at 54?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I have another person in my head. And I apologize.
Who you thinking about? Not Main Machine.
Right. No,
Agnesia.
absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. That's what I was thinking about. Absolutely. Yes. David.
Now you're on point.
Yeah. Thank you. But anyways, continuing with the Madrimov fight. Madrimov is a very good fighter. And so, I mean, that's the first thing that everyone has to think about. But anyways, they didn't feel like Bud had a good showing, so they didn't think he was going to be a strong cat at 154. He did what he had to do. In that Canelo fight, going up there, in my opinion, there should never, ever be another question about Bud. Not because of who Canelo is, if you will. Not because of endless things, but simply because Bud showed all of his skills, his ability to be able to adapt. And again, he went up that many weight divisions to fight against a guy that is way bigger for him, bigger than him, a guy that's always considered to be one of the greats in boxing, regardless of how his stuff is. So Bud went up and made all these different adjustments that he's always made at the younger weights, the lighter weights, and then going up to the bigger weights. Still the same. He did exactly the same. The technique was exactly the same. The plan was the same, and making adjustments was the same. There was no off time for Bud, and this is what I hope people were able to see. So now here's the big question, because when he was at 135, he fought nobody. He beat nobody. When he was at 140 and came undisputed, he fought nobody. When he was at 47, the only somebody he fought was EJ. When he was at 54, he fought nobody. So you get this whole resume built up for him fighting against nobody. Now he beats Canelo. What do they say then? Is Canelo a nobody? Is Canelo, for his whole entire career before Bud, is Canelo a nobody? Has he always been a nobody? You're going to have a lot of people that are saying no. Canelo's always been the greatest boxer in the history of boxing. And then you have some other kids that say Canelo's just like some easy cat. He was never all of that, and now he was just a dude that always does cherry picking, and he did a cherry pick that went wrong on this one. Well, I go right down the middle, if you will, and I stick by my stance of Canelo being just a basic fighter. Canelo is good. He's a good pro fighter. I will not take away. And something else that I stand by is that Canelo has improved since his Floyd fight. Canelo sure has, in my opinion. I've seen him do technical things that he didn't do before. I've seen his movements change, even though his rhythm is still off. Or I'm saying off. He doesn't have like the true rhythm that we know from as a rhythm, being a rhythmic fighter. He doesn't have that type of rhythm, if you will. But I have seen him attempt to incorporate that from his Floyd fight. I've seen him to incorporate other defensive tactics and start thinking a lot more as well. And I've just seen him kind of improve. Now, again, that don't mean that he went from being a basic fighter, a B level fighter, whatever it is, to being an A level fighter. You know, you can still be a B fighter. Like I guess in high school, a B is from like an 80 to 89. So you could start out as an 80, and then as you go on in this context, he may be up to an 88. You know, but he's still in the B range. You know, he has not become an A level fighter. I have not seen him as a level fighter since that Floyd fight. He is definitely you go to the A, and then after A, you become this elite level. He's not an elite level fighter. He never has. And I believe that Canelo padded his team. This is something else he learned from Floyd. Began to pad his resume by picking certain opponents that would not necessarily pose as much of a threat with them, or make the fight a little bit, more pleasurable to fans, where it would seem like Canelo was outshining other people. Canelo didn't fight a whole bunch of C level people, so I don't want to make it seem like that. He fought many other people that are at the B level, if you will. But he's also, he's fought people where he's put a lot of restrictions on them. Put clauses like rehydration clauses, or especially like in the fight with Kovalev, who just literally fought a few months earlier. He did, literally give the people time to train to fight against him. And when he's just sitting off for like 6 months or a year without having a fight, or he takes an easy fight. You have a guy that's come off a fight where he's kind of doing a back four. He needs some time to heal, do whatever he's got to do, and then train for your camp. So he didn't really have much time to train. So he kind of put some peoples in that category that kind of makes his record increase. And in this particular fight here, I do feel like Canelo came into the fight trying to give his all, trying to do what he can. Canelo has had several fights in the past, especially in Mexico. I think he started going pro when he's like 15 years old or something like that. And so even though he's young in age, younger than Bud in age, but in the, pro boxing, in the ring type of aging stuff, he's a lot older. And especially the way that he fights can age you pretty quickly. And so you do see that age setting in on how he moves. His steps are a little bit slower than they were before. He's not as able to kind of move around as much as he did before. Doesn't have all of that fast twitch, energetic movement that he traditionally had in the past. So it's just like an aging fighter, slow fighter, but he was still good. And so Bud faced that individual at a weight that he had not been at in a long ever, and he did an excellent job and showed everything there. So Bud did not beat a nobody. He beat a good Canelo. He beat a very good Canelo. And if Canelo would have beat him, they would have said Bud was nobody. He told you he wasn't all of that. So how come we can't give him the same credit? Go ahead, Randy.
Well, I agree with you. I definitely agree with you on 95% of that what you said. But let's go back to EJ right quick. The way Crawford did EJ, which of course we know now, we got to give account for. They've been training for EJ for like 5 years, so it's gonna be hard for EJ to beat him. I've heard they've been training for Canelo for about 2 years. I've heard Bomac say 6 months, but I've heard somebody else in the interview say it's been about 2 years. You think one of the reasons why he beat EJ, other than the fact that they've been training for about 5 years, do you think one of the other reasons why they beat EJ so bad was because EJ is kind of like Canelo in a sense? EJ don't really have a whole lot of tools in the bag. He's kind of a come forward, beat you down type fighter. And if he can take your punches, he'll be there. But if he can't take your punches, you can get him out of there. Because when I look at that fight, I don't see EJ doing a whole lot much different than what Canelo was doing. He got a better jab than Canelo, of course, but he got just a few attributes better than Canelo. How you feel about that?
Yeah, Randy, before that fight, specifically before that fight, if you recall in many of EJ's fights, I spoke about those technical flaws that EJ has. And this even goes all the way back to Mikey Garcia trying to come up and do that. I see something. He's like, okay, well, come on in. So EJ's even known that there's certain holes in his game. A lot of holes. And I've always held that Bud is a way better technical fighter. And I just never held that Bud would beat EJ at that time, strictly because of EJ's quote unquote heart level competition that he fought the tougher people, you know, without literally kind of training going all the way through. And so he's walked through all that where Bud, in my opinion, fought the lighter, the easier individuals at 47, other than Sean Porter. Um,
Okay.
to be able to get
With,
to where
with,
he needed to get to. I felt he may have needed about three type of Sean Porters, on that level, meaning tough. So yeah, I agree with you.
well, with you saying that, that brings me into my next question I have for you. What you saying, what you just said about Bud, EJ fought a better other competition out of the ones. Could it be that? Could it be that we missed it? That Bud is so good that he make even the good fighters. I ain't gonna say great because it ain't never but a few of them at a time in a weight class in a certain era. Could he make the good fighters look like they average?
Absolutely,
And we
absolutely.
missed it.
And
Hmm.
no, everything you're saying is 1,000. I can't. There's nothing that can be said, about that. Um, yeah, there's absolutely. And then we see what he did at. Here's my biggest thing, Randy. And what you're saying, and this is in this area of Bud making like good fighters just look average, because he does it so well. People are, I can't necessarily say they're not used to seeing it. They're just it's rare that you see someone in this particular area just be so dominant like that, where it's just they just watch it. So they find ways to take away some of his good attributes, his good quality, him being this top elite level fighter. The way they do that is by talking about his opponents. Oh, that person wasn't that good anyway. He's never fought anybody that's good, that's that good. Now Canelo, they find reasons to take away from what he is. Canelo's age, which is something I just want to hear. Canelo is, never fought the real kind of competition and never did any of those type of things. They look for ways to kind of take stuff away from Bud. I'm speaking just what these things are, and I judge them based off of those things and just kind of present both sides of it. But you're absolutely correct.
Um, we talked about you talked about that Madrimov fight at 54. I've heard in the grapevine, and when I say the grapevine, I just listen to different channels, and maybe somebody might say something on there that make a lot of sense or whatever. But I want to say I heard Bud say the reason why he fought Madrimov at 54 because they wanted to have him to have a fight, because they didn't really want him to go at Canelo. Basically, I'm paraphrasing, not quite what he said verbatim. That they didn't want him to go straight to Canelo. They wanted him to have some type of fight, and just so happened that fight that he had was a difficult fight for him because the style was difficult. It wasn't that Madrimov was so good; it was just that the style was difficult, and he had a hard time figuring him out. And so it made it look as if as if he was better than what he actually was. But if you watch that fight, he gave Crawford a lot of respect. He didn't just walk in there on Crawford and just do reckless stuff. He did a lot of fame, but that's a whole nother story. I'm not really talking about that now. But that is why they had it. And then two, I think that was one of the reasons why Canelo took that fight too, other than the money, is the fact that he thought he seen what Mikey seen, or he thought he seen the flaws in Crawford. Plus, he's gonna be bigger than Crawford anyway. Uh, but he thought he seen the flaws, and so he just took the fight because he thought it was a sure win. How do you feel about uh, him moving in that direction? I'm saying like taking the fight at 54, kind of looking kind of rough. around the edges and then going to fight. What do you have to say on that?
Yeah, Randy, what's interesting, and this is not verbatim either. I've kind of heard something very similar as well, but from the
Mm,
opposite thing, that it was Canelo's team that didn't want Bud to go straight from 47 to 68 to fight him because they wanted to try to develop something because it wasn't going to still be a big thing. He needs to fight someone else first. And I'm not saying specifically, Abel Sanders or anybody like that, or whoever's training Canelo or his, but more of his team, whoever's behind his publicity, promotions, or whatever it is. This is what was put out there, and it caused Bud to kind of have to do that 54, which he, quote unquote, again, what I heard, this is not verbatim, didn't want to necessarily do. Wanted to just, okay, let me go to Canelo now. So if that's that route that you're taking, and this is a person that stays in shape like Floyd, stays in the gym. And another thing about Bud is he's a true athlete. He does other sports and he's very good at the other sports. And so you would think that he stays in somewhat of a good shape year round. And if you're planning on fighting against another cat up there at this weight division 3 weights up, but then they tell you stop at this one just above you to fight, someone else first, and then we'll consider doing this. It does kind of make a shift in things. And it could be there's certain things stylistically that could throw you off for a second. But there is one part that I do have against in those arguments that was saying that he may not just all the way been fully prepared for Madrimal style or things, is that Bud is he's got a huge ego like all boxers do, and he's somewhat of a perfectionist. So even though he's going to fight this cat, he's going to make sure he's fully prepared for this Madrimal fight. I mean, just like he made sure he's fully prepared for EJ, fully prepared for Canelo and whomever else, because I'm going to go out here, I'm going to do what I have to do. I'm going to see the different type, because Bud uses what Floyd and many other people, that he uses that smart boxing technique, that smart boxing style, thinking throughout the fight, making adjustments in the middle of the round if I have to, type of thing. And in order to do that, you have to really understand your opponent, not just get in the ring and see this is what this is, let me do this. You have to see, okay, I see from the films, or my team has seen from the films, as my team is prepping me for this, they see that he moves his foot this way. They see that he takes a breath at this point. They see this. So what we're going to do is focus on disrupting his breathing pattern. We're going to focus on stopping him from taking that step this way. We know after he has a habit of every time after he throws 2 punches, he'll throw, his head out there, do a headbutt and everything. So we'll be prepared. After 2 punches, we'll step back, let him try to come to a headbutt, and we'll uppercut him. And so that's how Bud goes. So I think that Bud, I can't go all the way and say these styles or anything. I have to say, just like I would do with the other ones, Bud was fully prepared for that. And Montermal just he is a good guy. He's a good fighter. He's a good fighter. He's tough. And so he brought some stuff that they didn't maybe necessarily expect. But I do like that stop in the middle type of thing before you do come up here. And that's the the thing that I have about some of these other divisions that Bud have fought in, because I want you to kind of fight against some other kids, get your punch resistance, if that's what it is, up. Get used to getting hit by cats that are this particular way. Get used to moving at this way. Get used to moving around that ring before you kind of come after these top things. I've been a proponent of that. Having a boxing background, I've sparred against people that were way bigger than me, but that has nothing to do with in the actual fight, So I could care less if you're sparring against someone who's 300 pounds, but in the fight, this is the thing, and I think you have to get used to moving around with it. So yeah, I don't have a problem with the stop in between. And if you drop the bag in the fight in between, that's on you. You know what I mean? You have to be focused at all times and stay hungry. And this is what I do like about Bud, because he does stay hungry. A lot of people say still fights like he's trying to get there. So yeah.
I think speaking on something you said, um and as you was talking, I looked at it, and it kind of reflected me back to something that I always have been preaching in our little group about, and I always mention it to D-Ray also, that how they have been preparing for for Spence for like 5 years. Now they're preparing for Canelo for about 2 years. I think what happened with that Madrimar fight, even though he's good enough to figure it out, I think what happened with him, that the reason why it looked so tough was because he didn't have the time he normally would have to prepare for a difficult fighter, and they didn't realize he was as a difficult fighter as he was. And I think that's what kind of showed up when it came to that fight. That they probably would have had maybe more time to prepare for him, or maybe even, I'm gonna just say 3 months, maybe it would have looked easy, like Canelo fight, maybe like the Bird fight. I mean the Earth fight. That's what I think about it. Let's move to this final thing here, and then we'll close out. Bud made the statement a while back, and you'll remember when I tell you, I don't know exactly when he made this statement, but it seemed like it's raining to be true. Bud said, "Fighters are not the same after they fight me." It makes me wonder what's going to happen to Canelo, because we know Sean Porter retired. Just to name a few, Sean Porter retired. Earl haven't fought in 2 years. What's going to happen to Canelo? And I know people haven't even talked about this or even thought about this. And I think we might be the first ones to even discuss this. What are people going to say? Or what are Canelo going to do after he done fought Bud, and Bud then did him like he done did him? And will he retire, you think? Will he be careful about opponents he cherry pick? Where do you think Canelo going to go from here? Not asking what's best for him or whatever, but where do you think, out of your personal opinion, where would he go from here?
No, that's an excellent question. I think that's something that should be discussed more in a more technical, analytical way. So I think that's great. I would definitely like to maybe do another thing one day in the future on something like that. We can break everything down. I feel there is an aspect that I do feel that Canelo is really kind of done with the game, or close to being done with the game. He's just made so much money, bro. I mean, he's made Lord knows how much money, and even in this fight, he was the A side in this fight, and he's getting all that. Turkey. Well, let me tell you, because I think I have to see what their contract is. That's another thing, and so you know how, like, when these different promoters, when you connect with to make certain deals with a particular promoter or something like that, it's usually like, okay, I'll pay you this much, but you have to give me this many fights and everything. And so I don't know if the contract is a one and done with him in Turkey for
I
whatever
thought I
this
heard it was
was.
3. Crawford
That's
plus
what I was
2.
about to
That's what I
look.
kind of
Yeah,
heard.
and
Could
that's
be wrong.
exactly what I heard. That's exactly what I heard. So he would have two more. He would have to do two more. And I'm more confident. I mean, I especially after this past weekend, I'm I'm certain Canelo knows he cannot be Bud in a rematch. Even though, like, some fans may demand it, they may want it, and there's going to be maybe some money, a lot of money, maybe behind it, because they want to get back. I That's one thing I think he may man up on. It's not worth the money. Ain't worth it, because he will probably get knocked out. Because Bud, if that fight would have went on, if there would have been 15 rounds like before, he could have, Bud probably could have got him out of there. You can tell he was Canelo was. The fight's going nowhere for me, so I need to go ahead and find a way to get her. But I think Turkey may set him up, so they have two more in the contract. Some easier fights that may seem somewhat challenging, but still be easier. So Canelo can just do his stuff and then retire after those. There's nothing else for him to do. I think he will retire after his next two fights. One of them, I have an idea who the person might be. The one after that, I'm not certain, but I'm sure that they can get a lot of buzz behind the next guy, beyond Bud, that they can make whatever money on for him to sacrifice contract and then fight maybe like a semi cherry pick and then retire. But yeah, I think after he finishes contract with Turkey, in my head, I think he's done. He's done.
Okay. With that said, we're not gonna go into nothing else. We're just gonna leave it like it is, and that's some good stuff on the record. Um, do you have anything else you want to share on this subject
No, that's
before we
it, bro.
close out?
That's it, man. Yeah. Cover everything, man.
Hey man,
We'll see
like
you.
always, man. Glad we can team up to get in here and get this thing done, man. we need to get back on this a little bit more. I know our schedules be rough and tough. And we're not like some of these other YouTubers that can do this every day, all day, or then sold our
No.
soul to YouTube. So they got to get on here and they go against their morals and principles and just put it out there just for
Yeah,
the
nah.
quick views and likes to get the money. I'm glad we can have an honest, something that we can stand on, man, and stand on it not just today, but until we can hear different factual things to make us curb our decision or change our mind, man. But like
Very
always,
true.
man, glad to have you on. Glad to be on with you, and we'll holler at y'all on the next one. We're out of here like last year.
Peace.